At my wife's 60th birthday party, surrounded by 70 guests and champagne toasts, my 13-year-old grandson whispered with shaking hands, "We have to get out of here, right now. I have something you need to see. Please, Grandpa, trust me." I thought he was being paranoid, maybe overwhelmed by the crowd. But when I followed him to the parking lot and he locked us both inside the car, his face pale and serious, he showed me something that made me call the police immediately. "I'm so grateful you're here. What I'm about to tell you happened at 7 p.m. on a summer evening in Charleston. Where are you right now? What time is it? Comment below. I want to know who's listening as I take you back to that parking lot." My wife Marilyn looked radiant in her coral dress, laughing with friends she'd known for 40 years. The string lights above Waterfront Harbor Hall cast a warm glow across her face, and for a moment I thought this might be the best birthday she'd ever had. Then I noticed my son Blake checking his watch for the third time in 10 minutes. The party was everything Marilyn wanted. 60 guests filled the elegant venue overlooking Charleston Harbor. The summer humidity hung thick, but nobody minded. A jazz quartet played softly, and the buffet overflowed with low-country favorites: shrimp and grits, she-crab soup, sweet tea, and crystal pitchers. Marilyn's bridge club ladies surrounded her, sharing stories that made her throw her head back, laughing. At 60, my wife was more alive than people half her age. Blake stood near the bar with his wife Crystal, both wearing smiles that didn't reach their eyes. I'd raised the boy I knew when something was wrong. Crystal kept scanning the room like she was counting inventory. Her hand drifted to her oversized purse every few minutes, touching it like she was checking something was still there. "Grandpa?" Lucas appeared at my elbow, my 13-year-old grandson pale despite the warm evening. "We need to talk, now." "Lucas, it's your grandmother's birthday. Can it wait?" "No." His voice cracked, and I saw something in his eyes that made my chest tighten. At 13, Lucas was sharper than most adults I knew, but right now he looked scared. "Please, Grandpa, trust me." The urgency in his voice cut through everything. I followed him past Marilyn, who was too engrossed in conversation to notice us leaving, past Blake, whose eyes tracked us for just a second before looking away. The parking lot was quieter, just distant jazz and water, lapping against harbor pilings. Lucas led me to my Lexus and climbed in. Before I could ask what was happening, he hit the locks. All 4 doors chunked shut. "Lucas, you're scaring me." "Good." His hand shook as he pulled out his phone. "Grandpa, something's very wrong with Dad and Mom." My throat tightened. "What are you talking about?" "I heard them earlier. When I went to get Grandma's purse from their car, they were behind it talking. They didn't see me." Tears formed in his eyes. "Grandpa, my parents are planning something terrible. Tonight. They're going to take Grandma somewhere. They were talking about papers she signed about a nursing home, about making her confused." "Slow down. Your parents wouldn't." "Blake is my son." "I know what I heard." His jaw set with stubbornness I recognized. That's why I recorded it. Through the windshield, I could see Marilyn cutting her birthday cake, surrounded by people who loved her. Blake stood nearby, taking pictures like any devoted son would. Like any devoted son should. "You recorded your own parents." Lucas's face crumpled. "I didn't know what else to do. They're my mom and dad, and I love them, but Grandpa, what they were saying..." His voice broke. "I couldn't just do nothing." I looked at my grandson, this 13-year-old boy who'd just done something requiring more courage than I could imagine. "Show me." Lucas's thumb hovered over the play button. "Once you hear this, we can't unhear it. And they're my parents." "I know." I squeezed his shoulder. "Show me anyway." He took a shaky breath. "I recorded them. My dad and Mom. Grandpa, they're planning to take Grandma tonight." "Play it," I said, though part of me didn't want to hear what my own son Lucas's own father had been planning. The voices on Lucas's phone were muffled, but unmistakable, my son Blake and his wife Crystal. Lucas's own parents planning my wife's imprisonment. Blake's voice came first. "She signed the papers this morning, right? Power of attorney, medical and financial." Crystal sounded like she was discussing a business deal. "Your mother thinks they were Medicare forms. Didn't even read them." Lucas flinched beside me. "The house?" Blake asked. $680,000. We can close in 30 days once she's placed at Palmetto Gardens." My hands gripped the steering wheel. They were selling Marilyn's house, our home, for 40 years like a stock investment. "What about Dr. Bartlett?" Blake's voice carried that familiar anxiety I'd heard since he was a boy. "He filed preliminary paperwork yesterday. He'll assess her tonight at the party site concerning behaviors recommend immediate placement." Crystal's confidence was chilling. Blake, we've planned this for 3 months, since your mother inherited that money from her sister. 250,000 plus the house. We can't let her waste it. 3 months since Sarah died. What if she fights? She won't have a choice. Emergency authority. And if she's confused tonight, resist leaving. That just supports our case. How do we make her confused? I have diazepam in my purse. 10 milligrams in her champagne during the toast. 30 minutes later, she'll be disoriented, slurring, unable to stand. Perfect for Dr. Bartlett's assessment. Lucas made a small choked sound. You're sure this works? Blake asked. Marcus's operation has done this 15 times in Charleston alone. Crystal's certainty turned my stomach. By tomorrow your mother will be in Palmetto Gardens, will have power of attorney, and we can liquidate assets. Your father will thank us eventually. The recording ended. Silence filled the car. Through the windshield, the party continued, Marilyn laughing, guests dancing, Blake and Crystal playing devoted children. This was my son, the boy I'd taught to shake hands and look people in the eye, now planning to drug his own mother for money. Grandpa, Lucas's voice broke. I'm sorry. They're my parents, and I love them, but I heard them, and you did the right thing. I forced the words out. Lucas, this isn't your fault. But they're my mom and dad. If I turn them in, if you don't, they destroy your grandmother. I squeezed his shoulder. What they're planning, drugging her, lying about her mental state, that's not family. That's criminal. What do we do? I dialed 911 with trembling hands. 911, what's your emergency? Stanley Thorne. My son and daughter-in-law are planning to drug my wife and illegally commit her to a nursing home. Tonight, they have the drugs now. Your location, sir? Waterfront Harbor Hall. Charleston, my wife's birthday party. My grandson recorded their conversation. Officers dispatched. 15 minutes. Is your wife currently safe? Through the window, Blake approached Marilyn with champagne glasses. Crystal stood nearby, hand on her purse. She's inside with them. They're going to drug her champagne. Do not intervene directly. Maintain visual contact. Officers will arrive shortly. 15 minutes might be too long. Sir, confronting them could escalate the situation. I watched Blake hand Marilyn a glass. Crystal reaching into her purse. We're going back inside. I hung up. Grandpa, the police said, I'm not letting them drug your grandmother while we wait in a parking lot. I opened the car door. We go back. We act normal. We stay between them and her until police arrive. Can you do that? Lucas wiped his eyes, nodded. Through the venue windows, I could see Blake checking his watch again. Crystal's hand still in her purse, touching something. They were running out of time to execute whatever they'd planned. We have maybe 10 minutes before they make their move, Lucas whispered as we walked toward the entrance. We need to get back inside. Now. Walking back into the party felt like stepping into enemy territory. Marilyn sat surrounded by people who adored her, Mrs. Ruth Dennison, neighbors, church friends. And there were Blake and Crystal smiling like dutiful children while planning to drug and imprison her. Blake spotted us at once. Dad? Lucas? Where did you disappear to? Car trouble, I said evenly. Thought the battery might be dying. Lucas helped me check. He studied my face, my own son searching for lies. Everything okay? Battery's fine. False alarm. Lucas stood beside me, hands in his pockets. Blake glanced at his 13-year-old son, the boy who had just recorded his parents plotting a crime. You all right, buddy? You look pale. Just hot out there, Lucas replied, steadier than I felt. I scanned the room for the officers. There a woman in a simple dress near Marilyn's table, too alert to be a guest. Another by the buffet holding a plate he wasn't eating from. Officer Reyes had made it inside. Crystal appeared with her oversized purse. Marilyn looks tired. I brought special herbal tea. Let me make her a cup right now. My throat tightened. Somewhere in that purse were pills meant to turn my wife into someone who required immediate placement. Grandma doesn't need tea now, Lucas said, reaching for the bag. I'll put it in the car. She can enjoy it later. Crystal's grip tightened. It's meant for tonight, to help her relax. That's thoughtful, Crystal, Marilyn said, appearing beside us radiant. But I'm not stressed at all. I'm having a wonderful time. Save it for another day. Lucas slipped away with the bag toward Officer Reyes. I saw the discreet exchange. The purse passed off the officer, heading for the exit. Soon they'd test the contents and confirm Crystal's herbs for what they really were. Blake touched my arm and guided me aside. Dad, we need to talk about Mom. Here it came, concern wrapped around deceit. What about her? She signed papers last week, power of attorney, medical, and financial. She thought they were Medicare forms. It's more serious. She needs professional care. I forced confusion, not rage. She seems fine to me. She hides it well. The forgetfulness confusion. Dr. Bartlett has documented concerns. He's here tonight. I asked him to do a wellness check. At her birthday party. The sooner the better. Blake squeezed my shoulder, the picture of the worried son. We've arranged a room at Palmetto Gardens. Beautiful place. If Dr. Bartlett confirms what we suspect, she could move in tomorrow. Tomorrow, less than 24 hours. That seems fast. I know, but she'll be safe there, cared for. We'll handle everything the house, her finances, all the stress. You won't have to worry. Across the room, Marilyn laughed with Mrs. Ruth. 60 years old and sharper than most people, half her age. She planned her garden months ahead, devoured books, remembered every birthday without writing anything down. And my son wanted to bury her in a memory care unit so he could sell her house. Let me think about it, I said. Of course, but Dr. Bartlett should still assess her. Routine. You trust him, right? 12 years as our family physician. 12 years, and I had never imagined he could be bought. Blake's eyes shifted, tracking someone. I need to use the restroom. I followed his gaze. Dr. Kenneth Bartlett was weaving toward Maryland medical bag, in hand, professional smile fixed in place. A trusted physician moving with confidence. Except tonight he wasn't here to heal. He was here to lie. My wife's doctor, the man who had cared for our family for over a decade, was about to become part of my son's conspiracy. And I had to watch it happen, had to let it unfold. The police needed more than a recording. They needed to catch them in the act. Dr. Bartlett reached Marilyn's table, greeted her warmly, and she smiled back, unaware he had come to destroy her. Dr. Kenneth Bartlett had been our family physician for 12 years. I'd trusted him with my health. Marilyn's health, Lucas's childhood illnesses. I'd never imagined he could be bought. He reached Marilyn's table with his professional smile. Marilyn, happy birthday. You look wonderful. Ken, I didn't know you were coming. Wouldn't miss it. He set his medical bag down. Though these celebrations can be overwhelming at our age. Any dizziness, confusion with all the activity? Marilyn's smile faltered. I feel fine. Why, just routine. Blake mentioned some memory concerns, misplacing keys, forgetting appointments. I thought we could do a quick cognitive check. A few simple questions. I stepped between them. At her birthday party, Ken, his mask flickered. It's perfectly casual, Stanley. Blake appeared. Dad, Dr. Bartlett's trying to help Mom. My voice rose loud enough that conversation stopped. Help by declaring her incompetent at her own party. Guests turned. Mrs. Ruth Dennison stared. Marilyn stood, alarm crossing her face. Stanley, what's going on? I need to talk to you. I took her hand. Privately now. I led her onto the piazza, overlooking Charleston Harbor. Warm night air, salt water, scent string lights casting shadows. Through windows, Blake and Crystal talked urgently. Lucas stood alone watching. You're scaring me. Marilyn, Blake, and Crystal have been planning something. For 3 months, since Sarah died. Planning what? To put you in a nursing home. Sell your house. Take control of everything. She pulled back. That's absurd. Those papers you signed last week, the Medicare forms. Her face went pale. The power of attorney. They gave Blake legal control, medical and financial. Tonight, Dr. Bartlett was supposed to assess you. Document confusion, recommend immediate placement at Palmetto Gardens. I'm not confused. I know. But they were going to make you seem that way. They have drugs to put in your champagne. You'd be disoriented, confused. Dr. Bartlett would cite that as evidence you need immediate care. She gripped the railing. How do you know this? Lucas recorded them planning everything. I heard the whole conversation. Lucas, her voice broke. He heard his parents planning to drug you and steal your house. He chose to protect you instead of them. Through the window, Lucas stood small and alone, watching his parents, with an expression that broke my heart. 13 years old, sacrificing his relationship with his mother and father to save his grandmother. Marilyn followed my gaze. Oh, God, that poor boy. He did the right thing. I know. Tears filled her eyes. Those papers, Blake sat at my kitchen table and walked me through them. Said they were insurance updates. He's my son. I trusted him. 3 months they've been planning this. Sarah's inheritance, $250,000 cash plus your house. They wanted to liquidate everything. She looked back at Blake talking with Dr. Bartlett. Crystal watching exits. Lucas alone because he'd chosen right over loyalty. My own son, she whispered. I saw her face change. Shock hardening into something else. Not just a woman who'd been betrayed. A woman who understood the danger she was in and refused to be a victim. What do we do? Police are coming. I called them from the parking lot. Officers are already inside in plain clothes. They should... The lights went out. Darkness swallowed the piazza, the party, everything. Through the sudden blackness, I heard gasps from inside the venue. Then Marilyn's hand tightened on mine, and I knew Blake's contingency plan had just begun. 10 seconds later, emergency lights bathed the room in pulsing red. In that glow, I saw my son move. Blake seized Marilyn's arm. "Mom, we need to evacuate. The building isn't safe." "Get your hands off her." My voice carried across the stunned room. He tightened his grip. "Dad, move. I'm trying to help." "Help." I shoved him back. "By dragging her to Palmetto Gardens tonight." We faced each other in the red haze, Marilyn behind me, Blake in front of me. My son. The boy I'd taught to ride a bike, to throw a baseball, to be decent. He lunged again, trying to pull Marilyn past me. I grabbed his shirt, and for a moment we struggled father against son while 70 guests stared. "Dad, stop." Lucas's voice cut through everything. He stepped into the crimson light phone, raised tears streaking his face. "I recorded you," he said. "Everything. The parking lot. The plan to drug Grandma. Palmetto Gardens. The house. All of it." Blake froze, staring at his 13-year-old son. "Lucas, you don't understand." "Police, nobody move." Officer Stephanie Reyes stepped forward, badge flashing her partner beside her. More officers emerged from the kitchen with Detective Andrew Sullivan. "Blake Thorne Crystal. Thorne Sullivan announced you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit elder abuse fraud and attempted kidnapping." Crystal screamed. "This is insane. We were trying to help." "Ma'am, put the bag down," Reyes ordered. Crystal clutched her purse, but Reyes grabbed it, opening it on a nearby table. Inside lay a bottle labeled diazepam 10 minas, not in Crystal's name, and fully completed commitment papers for Palmetto Gardens. Marilyn's information already forged. "You little traitor," Crystal spat at Lucas, her face twisting. "We're your parents. We gave you everything." Lucas didn't flinch. Though crying, his voice stayed firm. "And she's my grandma. Somebody had to protect her. Even from you." Blake's voice cracked, not with remorse, but rage. "Do you know what you've done? You destroyed it," Dad Lucas whispered, "when you decided Grandma's life was worth $680,000. Officers pulled Blake's arms behind him. Handcuffs clicked, and a calm voice read him his rights. He didn't look at me, or Marilyn. He looked only at Lucas with cold resentment. Crystal fought harder, screaming about lawyers and false arrest until officers finally secured her wrists. "This isn't over," she shrieked as they dragged her toward the doors. Then silence. Emergency lights pulsed red over shocked guests' abandoned champagne and melting birthday cake. Marilyn's knees buckled. I caught her as she trembled. "Stanley," she whispered, "our son. Our boy." "I know," I murmured, holding her close. Lucas stood alone in the red glow, watching his parents being led into separate patrol cars. 13 years old, and aging 10 years in one night. Officer Reyes approached gently. "Mr. and Mrs. Thorne will need statements at the station. Lucas as well. He's our key witness." I nodded, still steadying Marilyn. Through the window, police lights splashed blue and red across Charleston Harbor. 70 silent guests stared, already memorizing the story they'd retell for months. The Thorne family, the party, the arrests. We moved toward the exit. Lucas slipped beside me, and I wrapped an arm around him. He leaned into me, exhausted. Reyes held the door open. "This way." We stepped into the humid Charleston night, leaving the party, the whispers, the shattered version of our family behind. And as I looked at Lucas in the flashing lights, understanding the weight he'd carry, I realized the nightmare wasn't ending. It was only beginning, especially for him. The arrest should have been the end. Instead, they were the beginning of discovering how deep the rot went. It was nearly 11 at night in the Charleston Police Department. Lucas sat beside me in Detective Sullivan's office, red-rimmed, but composed now. Marilyn sat across from us, back straight. We'd been giving statements for over an hour. Sullivan placed a manila folder on the desk. Your son and daughter-in-law weren't working alone. He opened it. Emails, printouts, client lists. On top lay a polished business card, Caring Children Resources, helping families navigate difficult decisions. Randall Keating runs this, Sullivan said. Looks like elder care consulting. In reality, he tapped the file. It's a blueprint for adult children to legally rob their parents. Marilyn leaned forward. How many? 15 families in Charleston so far, possibly more statewide. He slid an email toward us. This is from Crystal to Keating. 3 months ago. I read her cold words. Mother-in-law inherited $250K cash, plus $680K house. Physically healthy and sharp, will need strong documentation. Fast timeline, preferred. What's your fee for full-service package? Full-service package, Marilyn whispered. They were shopping for someone to destroy me. Sullivan nodded. Keating supplies everything. He connected them with Dr. Bartlett. He's done at least 8 fake incompetency assessments. Keating's network includes lawyers who specialize in emergency guardianships, judges who don't ask questions, and nursing home staff who look the other way. He spread photos across the desk, surveillance shots of Marilyn shopping at church at lunch. Months of staging. Blake took these, Lucas said quietly. He even asked me to help, said it was for a birthday video. I put a hand on his trembling shoulder. He asked me questions, Lucas continued. If Grandma ever forgot anything, if she seemed confused. I thought he was worried. He looked at Marilyn. I didn't know he was building a case. Marilyn reached for his hand. Sweetheart, you saved me. None of this is your fault. After a moment, Sullivan asked the question we'd been avoiding. Mrs. Thorne, we have enough to prosecute multiple felonies. Elder abuse, conspiracy fraud. Kidnapping, attempt forgery. Do you want to press full charges? Yes, Marilyn said instantly. Every charge. Even if it means Blake. Especially Blake. He planned this for months. He used his own son. He meant to drug me at my birthday party. She squeezed Lucas's hand. Full charges, Detective. Sullivan nodded. Child Protective Services has been notified. Given the circumstances, they're granting you temporary guardianship of Lucas. Lucas straightened. I can stay with you. As long as you want, I said. You're home now. Officer Reyes appeared. Detective Mrs. Thorne's daughter is online too. Marilyn stepped into the hall. I heard her voice, steady then breaking, then steady again. Sydney, honey, sit down. Something happened tonight? When she returned, Sullivan opened another thick folder filled with photos. These are Keating's other victims, he said, spreading them out. 15 families. Most of the elderly parents are already committed, some for months. 3 faces held my eye. Eleanor Whitman, 78. Arthur Preston, 74. Beatrice Ashworth, 91. Beneath each photo were facility names, commitment dates, and the relatives who'd arranged it, every case signed by Dr. Bartlett. Can they be helped? Marilyn asked. Legally hard. Their families hold guardianship and long-term contracts. But if someone challenged the assessments... Marilyn lifted Eleanor's photo. Stanley, she said softly, if Lucas was brave enough to save me, we can be brave enough to save them. 3 days after my son's arrest, we walked into Sunset Hills Nursing Home in Mount Pleasant to meet Eleanor Whitman. Lucas insisted on coming. The place wasn't terrible, just institutional. Beige walls, fluorescent lights, antiseptic masking something stale. The receptionist smiled too brightly and asked us to sign in. Room 247 overlooked the parking lot. Eleanor sat in a wheelchair by the window, thin and pale in a hospital gown, staring down at the cars. Her white hair was neatly curled, her hands folded in her lap. When we knocked, she turned slowly as if not expecting anyone. Mrs. Whitman. Marilyn stepped forward. I'm Marilyn Thorne. This is my husband Stanley and our grandson Lucas. Detective Sullivan gave us your name. Eleanor blinked in surprise. You're really here to visit me? Yes, ma'am, Marilyn said, pulling up a chair. If you're willing, we'd like to talk. Eleanor's hand lifted to her throat instinctively. I don't get visitors. My daughter says the drive is too far. How far does she live? I asked gently. Somerville, 12 minutes. She said it without bitterness. But Rachel's busy with real estate. I understand. 12 minutes. Lucas went still beside me. Mrs. Whitman. Marilyn asked softly, how did you end up here? Eleanor looked at her hands. 8 months ago, Rachel brought papers to sign insurance, she said. Medicare. I trusted her. She's my daughter. A breath. Next morning, I woke up here. Rachel said I'd had an episode and wasn't safe alone. By the time I understood anything, my house was sold, my accounts closed. Everything gone. What did you do before retiring? Lucas asked. Her face brightened. I taught English at Charleston High 35 years. Hamlet was my specialty. This above all to thine own self be true. The smile faded. I should have remembered that when I signed those papers. You sound very sharp to me, I said. The doctors here agree. I don't belong in memory care. They moved me to assisted living, but I shouldn't be in any facility. Her voice hardened. I asked for my checkbook last month. They told me Rachel manages everything now. Better this way, for whom I wonder. Marilyn reached over and took her hand. I went to the facility director, a middle-aged man with tired eyes. Mrs. Whitman is under legal guardianship, he said before I finished. We don't make those decisions. We follow the paperwork. She doesn't need care, I said. She needs her life back. Take it up with the courts. I can't intervene. He stood signaling the end of the conversation. Lucas suddenly spoke from the doorway. She could have been my grandma. If my dad's plan worked, she'd be in a room like this. The director looked uncomfortable. I'm sorry, son, but these cases are complicated. In the parking lot, Marilyn stared back at the building, a block of beige brick, and forced cheerfulness, holding people whose only mistake was trusting their children. That should have been me, she whispered. In 6 months, I'd be in that room wondering why my family stopped loving me. Lucas stood beside her face, far too old for 13. Grandma, how many more are there? How many Eleanors waiting for someone who's never coming? We drove home in silence, each of us carrying the weight of that question. Over the next 4 months, we became advocates for the people the system forgot. Lucas at 13 became a voice for the silenced. Week 2, Arthur Preston. Arthur Preston sat in Pine Grove's common room, completing the Friday New York Times crossword, the hardest one of the week in pen. 74 years old, retired math professor Sharp, as the day he'd published his first paper. Published 47 academic papers. He told us, tapping the newspaper, apparently I'm still competent enough for differential equations, but not for managing a checkbook. His daughter visited monthly with new documents to sign, power of attorney revisions, updated financial arrangements. Arthur refused them all, but from inside a facility, refusal only went so far. He had theoretical control of his accounts, but no practical way to access them. It's death by 1,000 paper cuts, he said. She's not Blake Thorne with his 3-month timeline. She's patient, but the end result is the same. Week 6, Beatrice Ashworth. Palmetto Gardens. The same facility Blake had chosen for Marilyn. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. Beatrice Ashworth, 91 years old, sat in the visiting room wearing a dress suit and pearls. Small, but regal. Fierce. I'm 91, not incompetent, she informed us. There's a difference, though, my son seems to have forgotten. He's a lawyer, for God's sake. Created a guardianship he claims is unbreakable. She gestured to a notebook on the table. I keep a journal. Document every violation. File a complaint every single day. They call me difficult. I call myself alive. Lucas listened quiet and serious. You're very brave, Beatrice told him. Turning in your own parents to save your grandmother. That took more courage than most adults ever find. Lucas's eyes filled, but he nodded. Someone had to help her. Yes. Beatrice touched his hand. And now you're helping us. I'd rather die than give up young man. But I'd much prefer to die free. Month 4. Legal aid and Eleanor's freedom. Jennifer Hayes, the legal aid attorney, spread documents across our new downtown condos, dining table, medical evaluations, forensic financial analyses, evidence of coercion. These cases are complex, she explained. We need to prove the original guardianships were obtained fraudulently. That means documentation, expert testimony, and time. Lucas had created a spreadsheet tracking all 11 cases color-coded by status, with notes on each person's situation, legal needs, and progress. He updated it every night. Eleanor's breakthrough came when bank records revealed her daughter. Rachel had withdrawn $180,000 in 3 months. An independent doctor's evaluation confirmed what we already knew. Eleanor Whitman was completely competent. The judge reversed the guardianship. Eleanor moved to an upscale senior community. She chose herself, not one her daughter selected. Our first real victory. Marilyn made her decision that same week. I'm selling the house, the one Blake wanted to steal. We'll use the money for this work helping people like Eleanor, like Arthur, like Beatrice. We moved to a smaller condo downtown. Marilyn didn't need that big house anymore. She needed purpose. By month 4, we'd freed 3 people and had 8 cases, actively moving through the courts. We were exhausted. We were winning. 4 months after my son's arrest, Detective Sullivan called. Trial date is set. November 15th. Randall Keating, Blake Thorne, Crystal Thorne, Dr. Kenneth Bartlett, all being tried together. Federal conspiracy charges plus state elder, abuse, fraud, and forgery. He paused. Mr. Thorne, are you and your family ready for this? I looked across the condo. Lucas at his laptop updating his spreadsheet. Marilyn reviewing witness statements with Jennifer Hayes. 4 months of work leading to this moment. Detective, I said, we've been ready since the moment Lucas locked those car doors. 5 months after that night, I stood in a Charleston courtroom, watching my son get sentenced. Lucas stood between Marilyn and me, about to witness his parents imprisoned because he'd been brave enough to lock a car door and press record. It was November 15th, The courtroom was packed victims we'd helped reporters, advocates, families who knew this nightmare. Judge Patricia Morrison, steel-haired and sharp-eyed, presided. The defendants will rise for sentencing. Blake stood. Crystal stood. Across the room, Randall Keating and Dr. Kenneth Bartlett stood 4 people who'd built careers on exploiting the elderly. Judge Morrison began, "Randall Keating, you operated a criminal enterprise targeting vulnerable seniors. You are sentenced to 25 years in federal prison without parole. You'll be 73 when released, the age of many victims." Keating went pale. "Dr. Kenneth Bartlett, you violated your oath, falsifying evaluations for profit. 12 years in prison, license permanently revoked." Bartlett stared at the floor. "Crystal Thorne, you researched and orchestrated the conspiracy against your mother-in-law. 18 years eligible for parole after 12. Crystal didn't look at Lucas. "Blake Thorne." Morrison paused. "Your attorney says you were manipulated, that your son needs a father. Mr. Thorne, your son needed a father when you planned to drug your own mother at her birthday party. He has one now in his grandfather. 20 years eligible for parole after 15. Her gavel stilled any objection. "Does anyone wish to address the court?" Eleanor Whitman stood first, describing 8 stolen months and watching through a window for a daughter who never came. Arthur Preston spoke about being trapped with a functioning mind, but no access to his own life. 91-year-old Beatrice Ashworth said she'd rather die free than live imprisoned by her son. Then Marilyn stood. "This case exposed systemic failures," she said, steady and strong. "We must protect our elderly without imprisoning them." 11 people were freed because one 13-year-old boy acted when adults failed. That shouldn't be necessary. Until the system changes, we will keep fighting. The courtroom applauded, and Judge Morrison allowed it. As bailiffs led the defendants away, Blake turned and mouthed to Lucas, "I'm sorry. I love you." Lucas didn't answer. Crystal never looked back. 6 months later, on a warm spring afternoon, Marilyn and I stood in the office of Sarah's Legacy Foundation, named for her sister, whose inheritance had sparked both the crime and its undoing. 11 people freed, 4 cases still moving through the courts. Lucas, 14, now came in after school, twice a week, to help organizing files, updating the database he'd built, talking to families only beginning to grasp what their children had done. He saw a therapist every Thursday. Some weeks were harder than others. Blake sent letters. Lucas kept them unopened in a shoebox. Maybe someday he'd read them, maybe not. Crystal never wrote at all. Sydney flew in from Boston monthly to help, family stitching itself back together. Marilyn sold the house Blake tried to steal and moved into a modest downtown condo, the remaining inheritance funding the foundation. At 61, she was stronger than ever. Lucas talked about studying elder law, so no one else has to record their parents planning something terrible, he said. Age doesn't make you weak, it reveals who you are. Blake thought his mother's age made her vulnerable. He now had 20 years to reconsider. Lucas had lost his parents, but found purpose. At 13, he'd chosen justice over silence. That kind of courage endures. 5 months ago, he saved one life. Today, he was helping save many. Some endings are beginnings. We learned that the hard way. This is my true story, and I'm sharing it as a warning. I never imagined I'd become one of those grandpa stories you hear about, the kind where family turns predator. But here's what I learned the hard way. Trust, but verify. Even with your own children. Blake was a good son for 35 years. Then greed found a crack in his character, and a man named Randall Keating taught him how to weaponize love against his own mother. This true story could happen to anyone. It almost happened to us. My advice? Don't be like me. Don't wait until your 13-year-old grandson has to become the adult in the room. Watch for warning signs, sudden interest in your finances papers to sign for insurance. Talk about memory issues. You don't have suggestions that you're not safe alone. These are red flags that nearly cost Marilyn everything. If Lucas hadn't been brave enough to record that conversation, this would be a very different true story, one where an innocent woman lost her freedom, her home, and her dignity because the system failed her. By God's grace and one child's courage, we're here to tell. You protect your elderly loved ones, but also protect them from those who'd exploit your trust. These grandpa stories shouldn't exist, but they do. 15 families in Charleston alone. If this story resonated with you, please comment below. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to this channel. Your awareness might save a life. It saved ours.